Alright, welcome everybody viewing this video. Just wanted to kind of go briefly over kind of the nuts and bolts on billing in ECW. Take about 5 minutes here and also show folks how to put in the modifying codes in the biller and a brief review of the E&M coder. So once you put in your diagnoses, for example, on this test patient, we do an adult well physical and we find them to have hypertension, or you find a finding that you want to add in addition to your well exam. So you put in your diagnoses under the diagnosis screen, obviously right here. Click diagnosis, and then you can go to the smart search and then find your diagnoses pretty readily. And then you go to your billing screen, which is the appointment screen. Looks like a calendar, however, not terribly intuitive, but you can kind of navigate up here much more quickly. So then I come up here, and you can, a couple different ways to add a code. You can click add E&M. If you just know your coding and your coding skills are strong, you can just pick right here whether it's established or new, and you pick a 99212 through a 99215, and that's for an established patient. Or you have the new patient, and 99202 versus 99204, 99205. And then, so that's for E&M services. Preventive codes are different. You have your established preventive codes here by age, and you have your new preventive codes by age as well. Those are essentially the four categories you're going to go to when finding codes. We don't really use any of these other ones. So you put in your, so we did a well adult exam. So I'm going to go to preventive medicine. Let's say he was established patient. And let's see, this is a 60-year-old test patient. So I'll do this code right here. And I click OK. So now I have my first code, preventive code, with that diagnosis. And so from there, one sec here. You would then you would want to put in, depending on the situation, right? And I'm going to try to not get too much into billing philosophies and or coding appropriateness here. I'm mostly focusing on the nuts and bolts of how to put in these things. So if you have a great understanding of what constitutes utilizing a modifier 25 with an additional E&M code on top of a preventive care code, I want to show you how to do that. So I've got my preventive code here. Now if you make sure this pop-up button is on right here, so you can see this pop-up. In order to put in a modifier, you want to have the pop-up on, and I click on these modifiers here. You can put up to 4 modifiers on each code. We're probably never going to put more than 1 in primary care. I click on the modifier, and now you can see under my preventive code, it's got the ICD number 1 next to it, and you can see ICD number 1 right there, well adult exam. Perfect. But I don't want number 2 on that, so I have to click right there and delete it, and click OK. So now I'm going to do add E&M. So let's say I want to add a 99213 onto this visit. So I'm going to go to E&M, establish 99213. So I have a preventive code plus a 99213. Now in order to do that, I must add a modifier 25. So I click again on the M, make sure your pop-up's on, click on the M, click on 25, and you have to just type in 25. And then I want to change my ICD 1 on that one to my second ICD code right here. So somewhat of a complicated matrix, but the way it all kind of shakes out, you can kind of see under each E&M or preventive code, you want to have the diagnosis, and on your secondary diagnosis is where you put the modifier 25. So this is a preventive 99396 well adult exam with a 99213 new diagnosis of hypertension, and that's where I put in my modifier 25. And that's how you would add that, just nuts and bolts wise, within ECW. Then you would put in your follow-up here, and always make sure you click done, because that submits your bill to the billing department. You can also type billing notes right here, so you can put additional questions for the biller or any sort of annotations you would want to add around the note. And you'll see that our call center staff use that at times as well. If you don't know what code, you can type right here, help find code for, and describe it, and that's reasonable to do. But with the Smart Search, that should be pretty few and far between. You should be able to find essentially any code you want to find, and Google's pretty powerful there as well. So I put in those things. I've got, well adult, there it is, and I click done, and my note is my billing is submitted. Billing people are happy, and you're off to the races. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts. The other piece I wanted to show everybody, again, you can get to the screen by going on visit code right here, or getting inside the node and clicking on the calendar. So from here, there's also the E&M coder, and then there's also, this is where you add CPT codes. So let's say I want to do a CPT code for something else. Go ahead and remove these diagnoses. That's how you do that. Let's say I want to document, put in a CPT code for removal of a skin lesion. If you didn't use the template, we have a nice template for that. But if you have a skin lesion, I go to my billing code. I'm going to remove these codes just briefly. And I want to add a CPT for an excisional biopsy. You should be able to search right here. The search is a little bit slower in finding CPTs. If you did it, it's probably not the right way to search for that. As an excisional biopsy probably would be a if you did maybe a search for removal. Anyway, whatever the code you want to put, if it's IUD insertion or removal of a foreign body, whatever it may be, just chose an example off the top of my head. But you choose the, we'll say the skin lesion was a chest lesion. I choose the CPT. That's how you do it. So that's how you add CPT. Make sure it's linked. You have to click on that and then link it that way. And when I'm not doing modifiers, I like to have my pop-ups off because you can just click right in the cell and add stuff without having to deal with the pop-up. So you play around with that pop-on, pop-off button. So that's how you add a CPT. Removing a CPT is this way, obviously. And then you've got, I want to show briefly the E&M coder. So as you click the E&M coder, it will actually count how many HPI quote-unquote elements you discussed, how many, if you are a review system was problem pertinent, extended, or detailed. If you verify those histories, how detailed your exam was based on how many systems you examine, which is why we use physical examination and not examination. If you're going to be reliant on, if you're going to rely on the E&M coder to suggest codes for you, it picks number of diagnoses, complexity of data reviewed, and that goes through, it counts that you verified all of their histories. If you looked at past lab results, if you merge lab results into the node, that helps you out there with the complexity of data to be reviewed. And then I'm not sure of the what calculation it's using to base it on risk of complications. There must be something coded in TCW that is by diagnosis that hopefully smart people were involved in doing to give you your risk of complications. So from there, then it would spit out, if I had a full note documented, a 99213 or 99214. If you like it, you click accept code. Grain of salt, I guess it's it may be a little aggressive in some instances. If you kind of do a run-of-the-mill URI, it will tell you it's a 99214. There certainly are respiratory infections that you can that seem to be possible to code a 99214. Anyway, I guess I would just say take the E&M coder with a small grain of salt and really work on your own coding skills. We've relaunched our coding audits. We've now done 6 providers. where we have an outside auditor look at 10 charts of those providers and provide some excellent feedback on how to be a better biller based on how you've been billing. And we'll continue to do kind of a quarterly training with AAPC on how to become better coders. And so anyway, that's the nuts and bolts on how to do it in ECW. There are obviously a lot of controversy in the coding world on how properly to code and what's appropriate, and upcoding and downcoding and the like, that I think we all could do better at. Anyway, that's all I've got. I would suggest potentially maybe using some of your CME money to find some billing trainings online, or maybe live trainings or what have you. So thanks everybody. Have a good day.